It's just before the finale of the second season of The Rings of Power, the 7th of 8 episodes, and apart from the well-known rings being forged and the orcs gearing up, not much has happened so far after 6 hours. And the very first scene shows that you can't expect anything again, because in a fabulously badly tricked opening scene, you see Celebrimbor drinking his latte frappuccino. Apparently, someone comes from advertising, and it is also shown that the direction here fails completely, as well as the entire production. Suddenly, the orcs are there and the siege is in full swing. So, after we have waited for 6 episodes and they have marched through forests, lived in pits, you are eventually thrown into the middle of the action, and I honestly can't say why they attack, what goal they have, because usually every statement is either contradictory or every plan has been kept secret so far. Which not only leaves the viewer with questions to the motivation, but also completely lacks any tension. Then the catapults shoot with a trajectory that shows that the laws of nature don't seem to apply in this world, or at least in the scene, and you ask yourself again why, because the plan, which seems to have sprung from the Lou Ferrigno trash classic Hercules, would still be implausible, but could at least be believable in this point, that is, the trajectory, if only the lower parts of the mountain had been shut. So, a minimal change, then the whole madness wouldn't be quite so insane, but any help comes too far for the entire production team.
Captain, they have a Ravager.
In addition, the elves now speak audibly Elvish, and there are subtitles. Then they speak with other elves next to them in the same scene, with the same people, but without subtitles. Why do you want to shout at the creators again? Because this senselessness unfortunately only shows that in the most extensive series in the world, there are absolutely dilettantes at work who are not only illogical in their own series, in their own world, but present all this with their eyes wide open and create every nonsense themselves. This often includes the direction that stages the orcs at the level of cosplay or LARP productions, with a lot of overacting, senselessness, implausible gestures, and so this spectacle seems like the orcs in a school theater with better costumes. Then the CGI horse attack from the Hell of Animation Sins takes place, but it goes nowhere because Adar has the knife put to Galadriel's throat, who is trapped in a cart, which no one would certainly see from Horde in the assault, especially because Galadriel herself is hardly visible in the footage, and the knife threw the boss even more. And then it is also impossible to stop horses in full charge so quickly and clearly, and it's downright a ridiculous plan of the orc leader to wait for this moment instead of getting his troops ready. What would he have done if the elves had continued to attack? Then at least he and his entourage would have been trampled down. In the following conversation, we see Elrond again, who otherwise had little to do, and Adar explains him that he always wins, what depresses Elrond because he knows that they can't win now, because Adar told him that he always wins. Another elf says that the orcs are 10 times overpowering them, which both makes the assault beforehand pointless, and you sit there in disbelief and marvel and wonder what the creators serve you next. And just when you think it can't get any worse, the producers lower the limits again. Elrond kisses Galadriel, and you ask yourself why, and out of what, and out of where? Because lack of emotion seems to be a characteristic of the series. And then we jump back into the middle of the scenery. Here, the battle, and it's downright pathetic because after, again, 6 episodes of marching on, the battle doesn't start dramatically. It's not built up, introduced, explained what is at stake, the potential sacrifice emphasized, or simply executed as it would almost be obligatory, but instead a few horses fall over, and arrows were, in other words, a complete failure in what should be an epic, suspenseful, action-packed sequence that sweeps the audience away with its meaning, staging, or choreography. Everything is skillfully circumnavigated as if you want to stack everything as small as possible. Then it is said that many Uruk die before they were 10 times overpowering them. Then they want to attack Sauron. Everything is confused. Who does what and how? None of this is explained. Of course, there is pathos without construction, people who sacrifice themselves and you don't even know who that was and what is at stake. Then it's again, no, we lose, but Elrond addresses the warrior who thinks everything is lost, no idea who she is, was never introduced, and says, no, a single arrow from you turns the tide. How many fire arrows do you have left? And she says, enough, and everything is saved again. And as wild as that sounds, that's all. Its last 10 seconds later, everyone is sure of victory, because the fire arrow, as every strategist knows, simply regulates everything. The unknown woman is then dutifully allowed to die a hero's death, but since you don't know her, it's as if the third elf from behind dies. The sequence is exemplary for the entire confused second season, which never manages to build up tension, repeats the same boring scenes endlessly and uneventfully, has no recognizable story, and condemns entire plots and characters to inactivity. The Black Elf runs through the forest every now and then, the wizards, whether good or bad, the Harfoots, the Ents, Elendil's son, you haven't heard anything about them for so long, and at times I even wondered if this happened in this season or even in this series. That's how far away this plot was. In every soap opera, there's a head author who coordinates the stories, distributes them, and presents them in advance. Otherwise, you forget many parts of them, especially what was exciting or important about them. But apparently, the 200 million plus are not enough to copy this age-old principle of the cheapest TV series to write a reasonable superstructure that does justice to all characters. This is shameful, and at the same time it calls in question the professionalism of the entire production. Because there's only one more part in this season that will never ever at all pick up on all the elements touched upon, let alone lead to a good finale. It's frightening that no one cares and no one has seen this beforehand, and pathetic that apparently no one has an overview in a production with an estimated total volume of $1 billion. So stay tuned for the finale of The Rings of Power and my season review, as well as everything that is to come, including ranking lists, for example, of the Star Wars movies, and the review of the worst movie I could find on Amazon. No, the whole internet.